And then it would come to a point where I'd finally close my laptop and turn off the lights, and I'd remember a passage that I had just read and start crying. It was, and I'm thinking to myself, I have made a terrible mistake saying yes to this and even just singing for this part, because how am I going to keep my composure doing this? I'm going to lose it every night. And then it dawned on me, wait a minute, yeah, you have to lose it every night. And it will only serve this role much more the deeper you go into this woman's head and heart. And Max von Essen paid me the ultimate compliment. He came in as Angel Ross after Aaron Lazar left the show. He's like, you're not afraid to go to that dark place, and it's amazing when you do. So it was incredibly encouraging to hear someone else tell me that. It was something that I will always appreciate him saying.
2 years. But who's counting? 1.92. How'd I get that number? Well, it's probably a holdover from when I did the play Proof. Interesting. Well, this is a really beautiful, simple song called Married from the musical Cabaret. And I love just the way it sounds, but as most of us here know, marriage really isn't quite that simple. That said, I'm a very lucky girl that I get to divide my time between home in the Philippines and in the US, as well as travel a lot. And they say that home is where your heart is. So wherever my husband Rob is, that is home. And he's in the third row.
One thing that I think it's when they're just very real and accessible, and when they're in the moment and completely focused on what they're supposed to be doing. Because I've heard people who are just note perfect, note for note, but there's nothing, but it's empty when they sing. It's like, oh, I feel so unfulfilled. And I leave the theater having felt nothing and not being a better person for the experience. And what excites me is when there's somebody that I just can't take my eyes off watching them in a show. You know, there are people who are just so real and who make that person that they're playing just come alive. And that makes it fun for me. It's not, okay, so he was flat with a couple of notes, big deal. But they were completely in the moment and completely present, and I appreciate that they give 100% of themselves in the roles that they do. I mean, I've watched Les Mis and Miss Saigon a bazillion number of times because I had friends in both and would be curious to see how another person would take on a role. And there are nights when I would just be, oh my God, the show was absolutely amazing. And there would be days when I'd be like, I would be so let down either by a performance or by an attitude or by a vocal quality or whatever, and I'll be like, that was it? I remember having seen the show and being blown away. I was not blown away.
I heard a musical called Baby, and I hear the voice of this girl named Liz Calloway. And she quickly became
the one thing that I realized watching the show is that, oh my goodness, you know, it's the character that has been portrayed in The Wizard of Oz as the bad guy, but she really isn't, and she's just different and misunderstood, and I know what it's like being, and I cast in Les Mis the first time. I was the only Asian in a cast of Caucasians, so I know what it's like to be the odd man out and somebody who stands out because I look different, and so I can hopefully bring some of that experience into doing Elphaba someday.
When you first saw the musical, what did you think?
I cried. The moment Idina Menzel came out, I was crying because it was, one, she had just won the Tony, and two, I knew that I was going to be in for an incredibly emotional ride. I just knew this was going to be something very, very special, and it remains very special because it's a character that so many young women can relate to. that if anybody has ever felt different or odd, here is somebody who will, one, be odder than you, and two, who really tries to make good in her life. And it's incredibly inspirational to watch.
Just got off of the train.